But when we talk about the CIA, what about them? Because the first people on the ground in 2001 in Afghanistan, as we know, they were CIA, they were paramilitaries, and we've heard no mention whether they're leaving, whether they're withdrawing. As a matter of fact, CIA Director Burns said back in April that they're not leaving. And of course, that's not been covered anywhere in the media. And what about the private contractors? Because as far as I know, the contracts are still in place. So, is it a real withdrawal, or is it just a withdrawal of conventional armed forces?
Well, the Afghan Air Force, such as it is, can't possibly function without the contractors. Even the helicopters can't be kept in the air very long without spare parts and so forth. So the contractors will have to stay. Huh? You think the Taliban's going to say, okay, you keep our helicopters going and you can stay? Well, maybe, because there are helicopters now, I mean, hello. The whole thing is so sadly ludicrous. The fellows from the CIA that came in on those horses, remember that? All those pictures, they came in on horses, and they were catering to the Northern Alliance, those warlords that are just worse than the Taliban, in my view. They're gone. I mean, the U.S. military took over. And one function of that, which is worth emphasizing, is that once the U.S. military takes over, once the U.S. military is at war, well, they do their own intelligence. Thank you very much. We don't need the CIA or DIA or anything else. We know what the battle requires. And so just as in Vietnam, and this is a direct analogy. I've been around a while. I was on duty in Vietnam. And what happened there was we analysts at the CIA had concluded that the Viet Cong, that is the communists under arms in South Vietnam, numbered between 500 and 600,000. Okay. Now, General Westmoreland, head of McVie, said, no, it couldn't be any more than 299,000, right? Now, that's August, September, October of 1967. In January, February of 1968, you had the Tet Offensive,
right,
where every village, hamlet, town, provincial capital, and Saigon were attacked by how many VC? It had to be 600,000, for God's sake, So, was that deliberate? Yes. Was it a lie that Westmoreland was perpetrating? Yes. And, you don't have to take McGovern's word for that. I had a really good friend. His name was Sam Adams, and he was responsible for enemy OB, order of battle, number of enemy and disposition, so forth, in South Vietnam. And he had made this conclusion that they were between 500,000 and 600,000. And he wrote up an estimate. He showed the evidence, and everybody in Washington except the U.S. Army, Westmoreland's group, agreed. So we did this national intelligence estimate, right? It was really good. And this is September of 1967. And when it got to our director, Richard Helms, he looked at it and said, "Oh my God, that's not what McPhee, that's not what Miss Westmoreland is saying." But yeah, we know. We've been over there. We know how they're falsifying the books. And he said, "Well, this is going nowhere." And we said, "What?" He said, "Look, this is Richard Helms, and this is their direct quote. My principal job is to protect the agency. And there's no way I can protect the agency if I get involved in a pissing match with the U.S. Army at war. Deep six this thing." And so it was. And I mentioned the Tet Offensive just a few months later. Why were people taken by surprise? Well, because the real information was suppressed. Now, just to fast forward here, guys like Petraeus, who was not really in diapers during Vietnam, but he wasn't very old, right? And others learned from that, okay? And they learned that if they want to do a counterinsurgency or do some little war, These smart guys in CIA and DIA will think they know something, so it's better not to have a national intelligence estimate. And so, when we were losing our rear ends in Iraq at the end of 2006, and Bush and Cheney were saying, "My God, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? We're losing." Then Bobby Gates and Petraeus were recruited. Look, you go fire those generals who know what they're doing. We'll do a surge. We'll do a surge, and that way, sotto voce, we'll be able to ride off into the West, not having lost a war during our tenure. Okay. Now, did that work out? Well, it sure did. What did it cost? Only cost 1,000 more U.S. troops dead. For what? Okay. So these are the same guys. Okay. This is Petraeus. This is Bobby Gates. Rumsfeld was going wobbly on the war, for God's sake, at the end of 2006. So they come in 2007. They surged 30,000 troops, kill a lot of people, get a lot of people killed. All right. So they learned from that. 2009, Obama comes in. Now, Obama had said, this is a stupid war. We're going to get out of Afghanistan. And I kind of said, Mao, that'd be interesting. Well, what happened was Petraeus and Gates and Hillary Clinton and these other highfalutin generals and admirals said, you can't do that. We're going to have another surge. Obama says, another surge? Yeah, this time in Afghanistan. We got to get up to around 100,000. And then we'll win. And Obama's a politician, right? So he said, well, God, these guys are talking to the press now, and they're saying that if I don't surge, I'll be a weakling and all that. Okay. He said, okay, we'll surge, but then I'll bring all those troops back, and what we say, 2 years? Let's do it. Make it a year and a half. The hell kind of strategy is that? You're telling the Taliban, look, go into the mountains for a year and a half and come back. I mean, it didn't make any sense. So, Was there an intelligence estimate? No. They didn't want those missing guys from intelligence to tell them which end is up. I'll tell you this. There was a general. His name was Eikenberry. And he had commanded U.S. troops in Afghanistan. He knew which end was up. They promoted him to be the ambassador in Afghanistan. And we know because two very informative cables were leaked from Eikenberry's pen, which said, look, this is really a big decision. I'm not sure you're getting good advice. We need a national intelligence estimate. We need to get all these factors before you do something stupid. Mm-hmm. And guess what? Petraeus and Hillary just intercepted those cables. And what did Eikenberry do? And this speaks volumes. He came back to Washington and lobbied Congress for the course of action that he knew would fail, that he had warned very articulately would fail. Where is he now? Oh, he's got a cushy job out at Stanford. He's a distinguished professor of I don't know what, okay? So that's the way it works. That's why it's the media academia think tank complex as well. These people take care of themselves. I mean, that was a really bad example of how you cave when you get outmaneuvered, how you refuse to tell the truth, how you prostitute yourself for the cause, and even lobby Congress for a course that has no end. And we've seen what kind of end it has these past few weeks.
Yeah, it's shameful. It reminds me of George Tenet before Iraq, right? So they produced this NIE, which was done, I think, in 2 weeks and just full of bad intel. And he ended up resigning because of it, right? It's scandalous.